So today I want to talk about why you emotionally eat even when life is good. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist specializing in emotional eating. And so what I notice when I'm working with a lot of women is that on the surface, everything looks like it's going well. You might be successful. You might be in the job you want. You might have all of the things on the surface. And I've had clients like that where their life, when they look at it objectively, it's like, everything is going well. Why am I still emotionally eating? And it can be really frustrating. And there's so much more going on under the surface. So today I'm going to be sharing with you the surprising reason why emotional eating shows up even when life feels like it's going well, the hidden layers that most programs and diets miss around emotional eating, and finally, how to finally shift this pattern at the root so you can have sustainable change. So it might feel like your life is moving along, you don't have any big issues, everything seems stable, you might be at a place where you have worked so hard to get to, and things should be fine, but you're still relying on food, you're still emotionally eating, you're still coping. And so even though life on the surface, if you sort of evaluate it, looks really great, there are still other things going on under the surface. You can still be triggered into this pattern. There are unmet needs that are popping up to the surface. And sometimes what I find with clients is that when life is actually going well, and it should be going well, it creates space for these unresolved emotions to come to the surface, to be looked at. They finally have your attention. They have space. You're not in a crisis mode. You're not running around. You have space to actually be with what has been unresolved. And so when you're an emotional eater, what usually happens is that you rely on food to soothe yourself, to cope with discomfort, distress, and you've relied on this pattern from a really young age. And because you cope with your emotions, you use food to sort of cover it up, these emotions, these unresolved, unprocessed emotions remain in the body. The body stores them. And essentially what they are, these unresolved emotions, are traumas, and they live in the body. And so they can be triggered to come to the surface. If there's space, they might rise to the surface. And so it's trying to get your attention because your body, you want to resolve these patterns. Also, when life is going really good, it might be really unfamiliar to you. If you grew up with, not having your needs met and you're finally in a place where things feel safe, this also can be uncomfortable and unfamiliar, and it brings up that old discomfort and distress, which is where you go to food to soothe yourself, to make yourself feel safe. And so even though logically on the outside, it looks like your life is safer, you're more stable, that is unfamiliar to you. And so you're going to have anxiety around it. You're going to freak out a bit. And so we need to really look at what's going on. So I want to share a client example. I had a client that on the surface, everything looked really great. She had a great title at her job. She was doing well. She found a partner. She moved into this house of her dreams. And she said in her own words, why is my emotional eating happening? Like, everything is going really well for me. This shouldn't be happening. I've tried so many things to help this. So this client had been on the diet roller coaster. She had even tried doctor-assisted psychedelics to help her with her pattern. And it didn't help her shift her emotional eating, and it just felt really confusing. So emotional eating is a coping mechanism. It's not about self-sabotage. It's a survival mechanism. It's how we cope with our emotions, our distress, our discomfort. And so when it is triggered, so when that discomfort, that distress, those uncomfortable emotions come up, whether we're triggered in day-to-day life with other things that come up, or we are now in the safe space, emotions are coming to the surface, or because we are in a safe space that feels unfamiliar, uncomfortable, and these emotions come to the surface, we're going to be triggered into our emotional eating. And our emotional eating is a pattern that has a lot of power. So it has 95% power because it is a subconscious pattern that when we are triggered with discomfort, distress, uncomfortable emotions, our brain just says, this is how we feel better, and we jump into looking for food. Our willpower, which is in our conscious mind, our prefrontal cortex, only has 5% 100% power over our actions at that point. And so for us to try to fight the urge or stop ourselves, even though, we should be able to, it's not going to work. We have to be with this pattern in a different way and resolve it, where we actually get to the root and move through this. So when I'm working with clients, we are looking at what's triggering their emotional eating. And yes, a lot of clients are not in a crisis, they're not in a deep survival mode. A lot of my clients, and I think a lot of women, think that they want to have a calmer space when they're working on their emotional eating. I actually like to work with clients who have the pattern sort of actively triggered, but sometimes there's not enough space to, you feel like, join a program. So when I'm working with clients and we are moving through their emotional eating, their life is not chaotic. Their life tends to be okay. They might be more busy and stressed, but the real issue is that their emotional eating is being triggered and they don't know how to get to the other side. And it feels like, I'm doing all the things. So maybe they've done all the diets, they've gone to therapy, they have had the personal trainer, they're doing all the things, and it's like, why isn't this working? Like, what's really going on here? And so we have to work through this pattern in sort of a sequential way, because we have to catch the pattern. We have to catch, when are you triggered? So why are you triggered into your emotional eating? Well, at first, it might seem like you're hungry all the time, and you might think you're always emotionally eating. We have to really start discerning true from emotional hunger and looking at, are you actually nourishing yourself? Because maybe you've tried all the diets, or you think you should eat a certain way. That shame or that self-criticism about how you eat can be triggering your emotional eating. And so we have to start discerning true from emotional hunger. When we really catch that emotional hunger, we have to start looking at, okay, these are the triggers around that. And that's just the beginning. There might be triggers around your body, or you might feel shame about your body or how much you're eating. And we have to catch those triggers and then find the root of them. And so we're doing this in a somatic way. We're getting into the root in the body, and we are processing and integrating that. And once we do, what we're actually doing in that process is creating safety. And you're learning how to create safety around emotions. You're learning to resource yourself so you can move through those emotions. In the past, what you did is you went to food to create a false calm. You went to food as a band-aid to create a sense of soothing and comfort and numbness. You didn't know how to give that to yourself because you weren't taught this as a child. Your parents or caregivers most likely would have dismissed your emotions or not been able to help you move through it. They weren't regulated enough to help you move through your emotions and get to the other side. And so this was a skill you didn't develop. And you don't have to feel shame around that. Most of the world is like that, and we are learning. And if you have this pattern, this is where you get to shift the pattern to meet your true needs. And so as we get into the root, you might start finding that you have triggers in your day-to-day life, even though on the surface and to your conscious mind, you're living this really beautiful life and you have all the boxes ticked off. It's not what you want. Or you might be in a work situation where you haven't really noticed you're not being treated the way you want to. Or maybe this isn't an ideal situation for you. Or maybe, that thing you keep, it's like not a big deal is actually something important to you. And so whenever you're numbing those emotions, because your body is constantly giving you information about your life and you're using food to numb it out, it's going to kick up your emotional eating because you're not really looking at the emotions to understand what they're about and to integrate them. And so when we're able to do this, when you start learning how to be with and move through those emotions, to hear their message, to meet your deeper needs, you're going to have an aligned action step after. And that is going to help you really get to the other side of your emotional eating. Diets don't help you do this. They really miss this point because they're telling you to control food when food is just a small piece of the puzzle and it's missing this key point. Emotional eating has the word emotions in it for a reason. There are emotions driving this behavior. And so we have to look at how have we been using food to cope and soothe ourselves in this survival way, and how do we actually meet our true needs so we can thrive. And so if you want to start really catching those triggers, catching your pattern to see what's going on, you can grab my free guide. It's called What Are You Truly Hungry For? And it's going to help you start discerning true from emotional hunger and catching those triggers. And you're going to start seeing a pattern of what's been going on. And maybe you haven't really seen what's been going on in your life, because it does look like you think it should look. And so if you're ready to dive in deeper and you would like more support around this pattern, you can find out more about my 12-week container, the Emotional Eating Evolution program. So in this program, there's the step-by-step process. There are office hours, there's one-to-one sessions with me, and support and guidance to get you to the other side, to finally feel at ease and peace and confident around food and in your body. So if you'd like to find out more about the program, or you'd like to grab the free guide, the links are below. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.